The issue of whether journalists should be licensed is one that is hotly debated in the ever-changing landscape of journalism. In many professions, including law and medicine, licensing is a well-established concept. Its roots are in pursuit of professionalism, accountability, and upholding high ethical standards. In this video, I focus on the main arguments for licensing in journalism, explaining the advantages and the disadvantages it has towards the industry. Underground blogs, websites, and writers without formal journalism training frequently produce excellent, honest journalism. Citizen journalism fills in the gaps left by the major media, which would be impossible if all journalists were required to hold licenses. Regardless of whether anyone believes they are qualified to do so or not, everyone should have the freedom to express their thoughts and ideas in writing. Censoring who can and cannot share information restricts the public's access to information. It is crucial that all voices, not those of the government select as qualified, can be heard. What are the potential challenges and criticisms surrounding the licensing of journalism in Malaysia?
In Malaysia, I think in most countries, there's an ongoing debate on whether or not journalists require proper licensing. But from what I know in Malaysia, most journalists and the public do not agree to have journalists being licensed because there is a danger that if you have a licensing body in place, then theoretically the journalists they will have to adhere to the licensing authority. So what does that say about impartiality when it comes to covering the news? So we don't have currently any licensing body that gives out licenses to journalists. Anyone can become a journalist if you go through the proper training, if you were to attend university, for example, to get a journalism degree, or you can also learn on the job. So that has been the norm in Malaysia. But I think when it comes to licensing, I don't think that journalists will agree to that measure.
The following is the advantages and disadvantages of whether journalists should be licensed or not. Licensing makes sure that journalists have certain level of education, which is a good way to practice professionalism and higher journalism standards. Second one is accountability. By imposing ethical standards and responsible reporting, licensing promotes journalist accountability and reduces fake news and prejudice. The third one is quality control. Licensing ensures journalism quality control by restricting practice to qualified individuals, respecting industry standards and professionalism. Number 4 is ethical standards. Journalists will be required to follow the ethics code to address issues such as accuracy, fairness, and objectivity. The disadvantages are as follows. Number 5 is freedom of press. It could be perceived as a danger to the freedom of press, making it easier for governments to censor the media. Number 6 is subjectivity. Choosing who receives a license may not be inconsistent and biased, hurting the diversity of voices in journalism. Number 7 is barriers to entry. Aspiring journalists, especially those from minority populations, may find their possibilities limited by licensing potential to create challenges to entry. In conclusion, it is important to compare the potential advantages of professionalism and accountability against the dangers of government interference when deciding whether or not journalists should be required to hold licenses and limitations on freedom of speech. Today, licensing continues to be used in several national initiatives aimed at empowering journalists and regulating media. Additionally, it appears that licensing will remain in use as governments look for new ways to categorize journalists in the internet era. Instead of requiring licensing, many democratic societies prefer to safeguard press freedom while advancing ethical journalism through self-policing, industry standards, and public awareness campaigns.